Good evening. I'm in Owl's Head, Maine, and it's quite pleasant up here, as you might imagine. Things move slower. There's the faint smell of the salt water, as we're very close to that. I take this run to a nearby lighthouse, and sometimes I go from there elsewhere. The roads are almost as quiet as they are back home in our isolated country road. But today is also a special day. It's 9/11. And I look back on it, and we have talked about the sacrifice, again, it's always of the we, the people, who did what they could to save others from this terrorist attack in New York and in Virginia on the Pentagon. And at that time, I was working in the Hill on in the Cannon House office building, and I was chief of staff for Zoe Lofgren. And when I arrived at the office, our staff was at the door, and they said they told us to evacuate. Well, it was clear to me that I had to let them go. And so they were all ready to go. And then they came back to my office, because that's where I went. And they said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, all over D.C., people are fleeing the buildings. The terrorists won." That's the message that they'll say around the world. And they asked if I wasn't concerned. And I said, "Well, I'm concerned, but to be fair, they're not interested in me. They're not going to hit the House office building. So it doesn't take a lot of bravery to stay at your post, in a way." Well, the members of Congress, few came to the Hill. I thought that was disgraceful. In the evening, they sang a little ditty to show their patriotism, Republicans and Democrats, and then they dispersed. And a few days later, they passed the Patriot Act, which was an act to limit individual rights and liberties, and a compromise that was being worked on in the House Judiciary Committee that was canned for a much harsher one that passed the Senate. And there was only 2 copies of this huge document, the size of a phone book, on the floor of the House. And so it's fair to say that you should read it, because nobody in Congress read it before they passed it. I mention this not to put down the efforts of the people who risked their lives to react to the attacks, but to say we don't handle crises well. We don't adapt. Our president himself, you could see him talking to the kindergarten, reading a book, was paralyzed, unable to do or say anything. And it makes me ill when people move to his side now, because he now would be critical of, say, Trump, when he himself did so many things that were wrong in office. And I think particularly of us declaring war on Iraq, lying about it. And, in recent days, because of the death of the Queen, we have another opportunity to think about that, because it was during her reign, whatever limited input she could have, that Blair and Bush went to war knowing they were lying to the public. And these things were unearthed and explained, and heaven help those who did, because they pushed them up against the wall to keep them quiet so they could have their war. This is the thing that's rotten in our system, that in a crisis like that, it's manipulated for other purposes, even though we knew that Osama bin Laden had gone through Afghanistan to Pakistan, and some of our first military responders, if you will, they went to follow him there. But there was a different agenda, and this was a handy crisis for Bush and company to use. So many died, Americans, Iraqis, for what? And someday in the next 5 years, we'll know exactly what. So why do I bring it up now? We have to be concerned about the manipulations that may be going on, the false arguments. Oh, how could you prosecute a president? That would be so disruptive. Could we do that? Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's exactly what we should do if we believe what we say about the purpose of the laws and people escaping the purview of the law. That if they do, it weakens the law, it weakens the coercion to do what's right when trust and good thinking and good faith and character would dictate that you do the right thing. So we have that. I think it's somewhat ironic that at the same time we're talking about that, we have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court lecturing America, kind of like, you should be silent and not criticize the court. You will disturb the trust in the court. Whoa, hey, stop the music. We should not criticize the court for what is done wrong, so people can be misled to think the court is doing right, that what Alito said was right, that, stocking our different courthouses from the trial court to the appellate court to the Supreme Court with people with a political agenda, it has anything to do with the law. Indeed, it has everything to do with politics. And as we've seen, particularly in the Roe v. Wade case, it's shown us that stare decisis, that is recognizing precedent that is settled, means nothing to this court. It means nothing to Judge Luce Cannon down in Florida, who makes up the law without rationale, without law to support her actions. And what does justice do? In quite elegant papers, they're finding and fashioning a way to concur with her instead of seeking her removal. Sometimes you have to risk crashing and burning to get the point out that you're right. Some principles really can't be compromised. Not when the price that's at stake is democracy, a respect for the law, and that without this law we have nothing but chaos. To go back to my Sir Thomas More quote, could we stand in the wind that would blow when we tore down all the laws that exist? I don't think so. We already see that that's the case. So, those are my thoughts on this day about 9/11 and how it's a reminder of past failures. Not just that there was a surprise attack that caused the unnecessary deaths of innocents, but because of how we reacted to it. And now we're being told to take the law as it comes to us, like some old nun waving a stick in the air, saying, you'll do this or else. Well, sorry. The court has lost the trust it had. It was a fragile trust for the years, the recent years for sure. And our court system's at risk of having no trust, no credibility, no reliability. And then what will we have? Will we be able to stand in the wind that will blow? We're already staggering. We cannot go on like this. So, I'm on a road approaching a lighthouse. So for symbolism, that's pretty handy. America purports to be a beacon of light for others. But I think its light has been irregular. I think its reliability, is going away. I think the world knows it. And I think we're not going to just lose an election if we don't get our act together and hope we can just get by and the nation will survive somehow. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. And I don't think that's what the historians told Biden before he gave his speech. But the thing missing in all these lessons today, on the side of those who would preserve and protect our democracy, is action. Indict the bastard. All of them, but get the head of the snake. It's the only thing the nation will understand. And the longer we wait, the more we invite an insurrection that's broader than the hill. And I don't think this nation can sustain such an attack. And we have to show that we mean business. So, I am standing on a road going to a lighthouse. that is more regular than the one metaphorically I spoke about. And I'll probably see you from time to time, including tomorrow, when I do my walk and talk on the roads near Owl's Head, Maine. All the best. Bye-bye.